Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. A long night for the Billings City Council as it works toward adopting a 2021 city budget tonight. The council tonight has based discussions on the assumption that an upcoming public safety mill levy will pass, bringing in an additional $4 million to the city. Well, the council just voted to approve the 2021 budget in a vote shortly before this broadcast. That vote was consistent with staff recommendations to cut $750,000 between the police, fire, and parks departments. It also discussed splitting the $3.5 million in cuts between a dip in the city's reserves and cuts in the police, fire, and parks. The cuts to the Parks Department did not include the closures of the city pools or the senior center. Much of the budget discussion centered around how to shift money to cover a $3.5 million deficit assumed if the levy fails. Now, if that should happen, the city administrator says something will have to be done to next year's budget.
We may not have to immediately take action, but by the next fiscal year, we will have to change our spending to match our revenue.
The mail ballot election on the public safety levy would happen on September 15th. Well, COVID-19 has taken another life here in Yellowstone County, bringing the state's total COVID-related deaths to 21 now. This as testing picks up across the state and health authorities announce another big bump in confirmed cases. Riverstone health officials say a man in his 60s died Saturday in the hospital, marking the fourth COVID-related death here in Yellowstone County. Also, more confirmed positives across Montana today. 7 of those in Bighorn County. Over the weekend, several younger residents tested positive. Local health authorities tell us most of the kids in Bighorn County have been detected through contact tracing. Many of them have had symptoms, including a sore throat. Well, tonight there are 29 active cases in Bighorn County. Gallatin County is next at 25, and Yellowstone County has 21. There are a total of 169 active cases in Montana, with 13 people hospitalized. Riverstone Health tells Q2 COVID-19 testing at Metro Park on Saturday was done on 463 people. There are still more than 1,500 testing kits left, and another free testing date will be set in the future. A local periodontist is also stepping up to administer free COVID testing for asymptomatic people. Dr. Brian Fuller and staff will hold walk-up service at his office on Billings West End this Thursday. He hopes people will turn out.
Unfortunately, we only have 300 of them. I wish I had 3,000 of them, but I think we'll go until we run out of tests or people stop showing up. So I think it'll be roughly around 2 o'clock is what we're shooting for. And at first I was thinking I'll just do it for my patients, but then I thought, gosh, in the last 5 days, I think Yellowstone County has added 16 or so cases, and it made me think there's a lot of people walking around Billings right now or Yellowstone County that probably have no symptoms. They don't know they're spreading it, and if we can do something to try and shrink that number and even if we just find 1 or 2 people that have it, didn't know they had it, and they're able to self-quarantine, what a great way to shut down this spread.
The tests are first come, first serve, and it should take about 5 days for the results to come back. And if you want more information, you can log on to this story on ktvq.com. In Billings, a new apprenticeship program hopes to get high school students out of the classroom and on their way to becoming registered nurses. And the best part, the students won't have to pay a dime. Q2's Mitch Legge brings us the announcement from St. John's United Nursing Home.
7 nursing students are hoping to further their education and get out of it debt-free, thanks to a new nursing apprenticeship program being offered at St. John's United in Billings. The program was put together with the help of the Montana Youth Apprenticeship Partnership, an organization formed to train young Montanans in jobs that are predicted to see high demand in the future. This batch of apprentices will receive their schooling at either MSUB or Miles Community College, while at the same time getting hands-on experience in the field. The program is primarily for high school students, with the goal to get them to continue their career in Montana.
So we're excited about the partnership. We're excited about the economic vibrancy that this will create in our community to provide a future pipeline of healthcare employees that will be inspired by what I would call the social and bedside graces of senior care.
Another benefit for apprentices is that once they've completed their schooling, they can take a job wherever they want, instead of being tied down to St. John's. In Billings, Mitch Legge, MTN News.
All right, thanks, Mitch. The apprenticeship program was funded in part with the help of a $1 million gift from the Washington State-based Bruno and Evelyn Betty Foundation. All right, turning to Chief Forecaster Bob McGuire. And Bob, hard to believe, but some parts of the state dealing with drought already.
We were just talking about that earlier on, and we wonder, we've had some dry conditions across Montana, but how dry is it? Well, we're not alone when it comes to drought conditions. Take a look at this. Places, we're looking at the Four Corner states here. That's New Mexico and Colorado, parts of Texas and Oklahoma. They have extreme drought in that area. Meanwhile, in California, look at this. It's the northern part of the state, from San Francisco all the way up into Medford, Oregon. They've got also severe to extreme drought in that area. Back here in Montana, hard to believe, but we actually have moderate to severe drought in the southwestern corner of the state. That's the spot that didn't get all the snow this winter. And you'll notice here across much of south central Montana, like in the Billings area, we're just abnormally dry. Same thing for eastern Montana. In the Bighorn Basin, also looking for moderate drought in that area across Montana and a good portion of Wyoming. So yeah, drought is starting to finally sneak back into the region. We could use some moisture. We see a little bit on the horizon, but not a drought entered. We'll talk more about that in a few more minutes.
All right, thank you, Bob. President Trump is expected to continue his crackdown on immigration with an executive order and a trip to the border. But his visit to Arizona will come amid a spike in coronavirus cases in that state. Skylar Henry has more details from the White House.
President Trump is headed to Arizona Tuesday, where he plans to tour a section of the border wall. He also signed an executive order suspending work visas through the end of the year. It would impact workers in the tech industry, large corporations, some seasonal workers, and scholars. The president will then travel to Phoenix for a rally with Students for Trump. Arizona currently has the fastest coronavirus growth rate in the United States.
Because of our extraordinary work with testing, we're able to identify cases in the community before they develop symptoms and are in a hospital.
During a campaign rally in Oklahoma this weekend, President Trump received some backlash for saying he ordered a slowdown in coronavirus testing because the increase in testing is showing an increase in cases. The White House later said President Trump was just joking, but during an interview with Scripps Television Monday morning, the president did not back down from the claim.
But did you ask to slow it down?
If it did slow down, frankly, I think we're way ahead of ourselves, if you want to know the truth. We've done too good a job, because every time we go up with 25 million tests, you're going to find more people.
The Trump administration is currently sitting on $14 billion in congressionally authorized funds for testing and contact tracing. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer sent a letter to Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar demanding the administration spend the funds. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
Well, the White House says it is not sitting on the money and repeated its claim that the U.S. leads the world in testing. Montana has one of the most watched U.S. Senate contests in the nation this year, as Democrats believe they have a chance to pick up a Republican seat, with Governor Steve Bullock challenging GOP incumbent Steve Daines. So far, that high-stakes race has been fairly quiet, but that's about to change. MTN Chief Political Reporter Mike Dennison tells us where this race stands and what to watch out for in months ahead.
Now that the primary election is behind us, Senator Daines and Governor Bullock are ready to rumble, but part of their appeal to voters sounds remarkably similar.
I've been recognized as one of the most bipartisan, most effective senators.
Montana voters have seen how I've actually brought people together to get things done, and that's Democrats and Republicans.
Both men are aiming to capture swing voters in the political center, who usually decide close elections in Montana. Yet there are clear differences between the candidates, their campaigns, and message. Daines, a former executive for a Bozeman software development firm, says the election is about jobs and rebuilding the economy, where he has firsthand experience.
I'm the only candidate who knows how to actually create jobs and grow businesses. I spent 28 years in the private sector before getting in public service. We can't turn towards socialism. I think this election is going to be about who can best create jobs and bring back our jobs from overseas.
One of Daines' first campaign ads also takes after China over the coronavirus and jobs, a script being followed by many Republican Senate candidates across the country. He says he wants tax credits for companies who bring jobs from China back to America. Governor Bullock says it's time for a national infrastructure bill to help create jobs, but he'll be harping on health care and criticizing Daines for his votes to repeal the Affordable Care Act and not doing much to lower drug costs.
I mean, the idea that Costco or Walmart can negotiate prescription drug prices, but the federal government won't even do it because they're captured by the drug industry, those are simple, easy steps we ought to be able to take.
Daines and Bullock also will be debating the true impact of the 2017 federal tax cut passed by Republicans.
When you think of who really benefited from the $1.3 trillion of debt from these Trump tax cuts, it's not mainstream Montana.
Cutting taxes and putting more money in the pockets of hardworking Montanans, in the pockets of small businesses, is key.
And let's not forget something else, the Trump factor. The president likely will come to Montana to campaign for Senator Daines. Will that help him? Will Governor Bullock take on the president in Montana? We'll find out. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Thanks, Mike. As the general election campaign for Montana's open governor's seat kicks into gear, Republican Greg Gianforte starts with a big financial advantage over Democrat Mike Cooney. Yet the two candidates weren't that far apart when it came to campaign fundraising last month. Congressman Gianforte raised $248,000 during the period. Lieutenant Governor Cooney raised $207,000. Still, Gianforte has raised a whopping $3.8 million for his campaign, compared to about $1.1 million for Cooney. Gianforte has already spent nearly $3.3 million on his campaign and still had almost $600,000 left last week. Cooney starts the general election campaign with about $169,000. Gianforte's fundraising total includes $1.5 million of his own money. Well, still to come on tonight's 10 o'clock news, the pandemic has resulted in millions of Americans losing their jobs, but opposite of the Great Recession, women have been hit the hardest. We'll tell you why. And in sports, the NAIA released more details into their fall sports plan. Scott breaks them down, tells us what it might mean for the Rocky Mountain Battling Bears.
You're watching MTN News with Janelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Breen. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.